I was the most beautiful and wealthiest young lady in Riverton City. By a twist of fate, I married a stable hand. I despised him for his rough ways. Despite his handsome appearance, I tormented him, humiliated him, trampled on his dignity, and even gave him the name Little Dog. Later, I began to feel something for him, and my belly swelled with a little one, but then he transformed overnight into His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince far above my reach. The man who once obeyed my every command now wanted to divorce me, marry another woman and take everything by force. So I ran away, carrying our child. It's all over. The stable hand I had bullied and humiliated for 2 years had suddenly become the Crown Prince. Riverton City had a tradition of arranged marriages through silk ball ceremonies. 2 years ago, during my coming-of-age ceremony, my father, the wealthiest man in Riverton, gathered all the young gentlemen in the city to compete for my silk ball. I had my heart set on scholar Chen Wenyuan. Who would have imagined that a rough stable hand would catch my silk ball instead? Concerned about my reputation, I couldn't possibly break the engagement publicly, so I reluctantly allowed him to join our household as my husband. But I looked down on him, all brawn and beauty with no refinement, and took out all my frustrations on him. I gave him a name, Little Dog. I refused to let him share my bed. In winter, I made him sleep in the stables. In summer, in the woodshed. When I was in good spirits during the day, I'd make him lie face down, while I stepped on his back with paint on my feet to create artwork. When I was angry, I'd step on his face. In short, I found every way possible to humiliate him. Yet he never cried, never complained, never showed anger, he simply endured my abuse. Eventually I began to feel guilty, wondering if I had become a beautiful but twisted monster. A month ago bandits kidnapped me and drugged me. He came charging to my rescue on horseback, spear in hand. He looked particularly magnificent that day, and in my confusion we consummated our marriage. I think I began to care for him a little. When my eyes were open I thought of him. When they were closed I still thought of him. He seemed like an enchanting spirit who had bewitched my heart, which made me even angrier, so I banished him back to the stables. Before, when I made him sleep in the stables, this beautiful monster felt quite pleased with herself. Now I found myself sneaking out to watch him. He was in my own home, yet I had contracted lovesickness, the incurable kind. The flame in my heart grew brighter each day. I no longer wanted him sleeping in the stables. During the day, I wanted to see him. At night, I wanted to rest against his broad, warm chest. Today was his birthday. I personally made him a bowl of longevity noodles and wanted to give him a surprise. He was going to be a father. Little D. When I reached the stables, I discovered that he was actually the Emperor and Empress's only child, the Crown Prince who had been lost during the war and raised among common folk. Little Dog had suddenly become Golden Prince Zhou Yuchen. I heard he even had a betrothed princess. The Crown Princess was beautiful, the daughter of a high official, the capital's most talented woman, skilled in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. He would marry her upon his return to the capital. My family's stable was already surrounded. The moment the imperial guards spotted me lurking about, they drew their swords to my throat. "How dare you, commoner, don't you kneel before His Royal Highness the Crown Prince." Suddenly, I felt deeply sad. I didn't kneel. Instead, risking having my head cut off, I carefully took his hand. Are you really the Crown Prince, Miss Shen? How do you plan to torment me today?" His rough hemp clothing had been replaced by magnificent black robes, and his entire bearing radiated the nobility of high station. He coldly shook off my hand. "Rest assured, Miss Shen. When I return to the capital, I'll have someone deliver divorce papers to you." My eyes felt like they'd been filled with pepper water. I hadn't planned to torment him today. I wanted to celebrate his 22nd birthday. I wanted to tell him I was carrying Little Dog's child. I wanted to tell him I couldn't bear to let him go, and that if he wouldn't stay, I could accompany him to the capital. But he wouldn't even let me hold his hand, and now he spoke of divorce papers. At 18, I was to become a discarded wife. I finally understood. He despised me and would never want the little one in my belly. In the future, he would live happily with his crown princess and have many little golden princes. And I, Shen Tangtang, was just the twisted woman who had abused him during his time of hardship. Is there anything else, Miss Shen? Seeing me standing there in a daze, he condescended to ask once more. I wanted him to taste the longevity noodles I'd made with my own hands. But after all the unconscionable things I'd done to him, the fact that he didn't cut off my head was already merciful. How could he possibly taste noodles made by someone attempting to cook for the first time, afraid he might take revenge on my entire family? I didn't dare speak further, only shook my head with red-rimmed eyes. He gave a mocking snort, mounted his horse and never looked back. My heart felt suddenly hollow. I stood frozen in place for a long time before collapsing straight down, nearly miscarrying. Even worse, on the third day after he left Riverton City, my father was arrested on charges of murdering a court official and taken to the capital. My mother and I didn't believe father would harm anyone. We rushed to the capital, only to learn that father had been convicted and would be executed in a month. My mother and I visited father in prison. He said he'd been framed. In just half a month in prison, my dignified and handsome father had wasted away beyond recognition. My mother was heartbroken and nearly cried herself blind. Such a beautiful, radiant woman, the light had gone out of her eyes completely. Suddenly mother thought of something and gripped my hand tightly. Tang Tang, go find little D. Find His Royal Highness for help. You two were close for 2 years, and he even called your father father-in-law. Surely he won't stand by and watch. Tang Tang, I'm begging you. I couldn't bear to tell mother that I had never been close with the current Crown Prince Zhou Yuchen. I couldn't tell her that when I was happy, I'd made him dive into freezing water to catch fish for me. When I was irritable during my monthly cycle, I'd whip him repeatedly. He probably hoped for this beautiful monster to meet misfortune. How could he possibly help me? I couldn't bear to see the hope that had finally appeared in mother's eyes shatter. So I took my favorite little golden whip and went to the Crown Prince's residence to request an audience. At worst, he could take his revenge and whip me to death. I couldn't just watch my father lose his head. In the past, if I wanted little dog to go east, he wouldn't go west. If I wanted him to kneel before me, he wouldn't lie at my feet. Now I discovered how difficult it was just to see him once. I waited from morning until evening, my little golden whip covered with snow, before I finally saw him approaching on horseback. He had always been impossibly handsome, but now dressed in expensive sable fur, he seemed like a deity descending to earth. He dismounted, his cold thin gaze falling directly on the little golden whip in my hand. Miss Shen, which hand did you use to whip me? I was already shivering from the cold, and hearing his voice without a trace of warmth made my lips tremble uncontrollably. I suspected he wanted to chop off my sinful hands. Then I heard him say, "And which foot did you use to step on me?" The guards behind him suddenly drew their swords, cold light flashing. Fearing they might really cut off my hands and feet, I instinctively tried to back away. But my feet were frozen stiff. With this movement, I fell directly into his arms. His chest was burning hot, and I couldn't help remembering the tenderness he'd shown when holding me and coaxing me on our wedding night. My eyes reddened despite my resolve, and I asked fearlessly, "Little D, your Royal Highness, can you save my father?" He reached up and playfully hooked the ties of my cloak. "So you're throwing yourself into my arms to get me to save Shen Nanshan? Very well. Let me see how well the arrogant Miss Shen serves men, and whether you can please me in bed." With that, he carried me directly into the Crown Prince's residence and threw me onto his bed. My white fox cloak fell away as he immediately grabbed my undergarment. Shen, little dog. His strength was truly overwhelming. When he threw me on the bed like this, my lower back hurt from the impact. Combined with his excessive behavior, I flew into a rage and momentarily couldn't control my temper. Raising my little golden whip, he directly tore off my undergarment. He curved his lips in a mocking smile, thin, cold, emotionless, his dark star-like eyes filled with unreachable distance. His natural authority was intimidating. "Miss Shen, is this your attitude when asking for favors?" My little golden whip fell weakly to the floor. His gaze was truly too cold, like an ink pool covered in ice, slowly devouring and freezing my internal organs. I was reminded once again that he was no longer the little dog who bore my surname, but Zhou Golden Prince, who could crush my entire family, with a flick of his finger. Please me. If you can satisfy me, perhaps I'll show mercy and spare Shen Nanshan's life. Please him. My heart suddenly filled with indescribable sorrow. I couldn't help but lower my gaze and gently touch my still flat belly. On the day he returned to the capital, I had started bleeding. Though I managed to keep little dog in my belly, the doctor said my pregnancy was unstable, and I still risked miscarriage. The first 3 months were especially critical. I couldn't have extreme emotional fluctuations, couldn't do strenuous exercise, and definitely couldn't engage in marital relations. I was afraid of bleeding, even more afraid of losing little dog in my belly. Even if Joe Golden Prince didn't want him, I did. But Joe Golden Prince wanted me to please him. This was my only chance to save my father. So unwilling, Zhou Yuchen sneered. I don't like forcing people. Since you're so unwilling, you can wait to collect Shen Nanshan's corpse in a month. I felt so wronged my eye sockets ached, wanting to cry. I also wanted to tell him I was pregnant, that my body wasn't well lately, that I couldn't do such things, but I didn't dare tell him about little dog in my belly. Chuniang, who had grown up with me, saved a down-and-out scholar a year ago, and they fell in love. Before the scholar went to the capital for the imperial examinations, Chuniang became pregnant. The scholar was selected as a son-in-law by a high official, and became the minister's favored son-in-law. Learning of Chuniang's pregnancy, the scholar feared the child would obstruct his future, and forced someone to give Chuniang abortion medicine. If even a mere 7th-rank official would abandon his wife and child for a noble woman's favor, how could Zhou Yuchen, the crown prince, second only to the emperor, possibly want little dog in my belly? Moreover, I wasn't even his devoted wife who had shared his hardships, but the beautiful monster who had abused and tormented him for 2 years. The common people cannot fight against officials. If a 7th-rank official could commit murder so casually, the high and mighty crown prince could kill me and little dog easier than crushing 2 ants. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince had clearly lost patience. He snorted coldly, casually threw my undergarment on the floor, and turned to leave. Little D, Your Royal Highness. I bit my lip hard and still hugged him tightly from behind. I had always been spoiled and pampered. Arrogant and proud, I disliked bowing to others. I also didn't want to bleed, but I wanted my father to live even more. I looked up at the ceiling, trying hard to force back my tears, and said with a trembling voice, I'll please you. Zhou Yuchen let out another extremely disdainful and cold laugh. He had his back to me, so I couldn't see his expression, but I could imagine how cold his face must be. Afraid he would leave again, even though I didn't know much about pleasing men. I clumsily tried to touch him. After thinking for a moment, I walked in front of him and kissed his lips with some sadness. Is this all Miss Shen is capable of? What more did he expect from me? I felt both embarrassed and angry, wanting to grab my little golden whip. But I understood that if I dared reach for it now, I'd be holding a knife to my father's throat. For a moment, I truly didn't know what else to do. I looked up at him, meeting his gaze filled with surging dark colors. I couldn't help remembering our wedding night. That night, his eyes had also been filled with turbulent waves of dark color. I couldn't understand. But that night, he wouldn't have commanded me from his high position to please him. Instead, he kissed me carefully and tenderly, and when he hurt me, he coaxed me repeatedly, telling me not to cry. The current Zhou Yuchen seemed to want me to cry. The contrast between his kindness that night and his cruelty now was too stark, making my nose ache terribly. However, the memory of that night also gave me some inspiration. I mimicked the way he had kissed me that night, carefully and tentatively kissing him, hoping his gaze would become less cold so he might help my father, Shen Tangtang, stay away from me. I didn't know what was wrong with him. His breathing suddenly became very rapid, hearing him tell me to stay away, afraid that if I didn't retreat far enough he might throw me painfully again. I instinctively tried to step back. But the moment I took a small step backward, he grabbed my waist with one hand and pinned me firmly against the bed, reversing our roles and nearly biting my lips to pieces. You're high. I wanted to say he must be part dog, but I didn't quite dare. His kisses grew more intense, making it difficult for me to breathe. I couldn't complete a full sentence. Clothes tore and scattered. I felt like a fallen leaf floating in the deep sea, able only to sway with these towering waves. Somewhat embarrassingly, I later fell asleep from exhaustion. I was troubled and didn't sleep deeply. I opened my eyes drowsily before dawn. Jo Yuchen was apparently preparing for court. He was already fully dressed, proper and dignified, coldly magnificent, no longer the man who used to wear rough hemp clothing like Shen Little Dog from my memories. My eyes grew sour and stinging again. I sniffled before speaking hoarsely. Your Royal Highness, last night I already. The rest was too difficult to say, so I changed my words. You'll save my father, won't you? When did I ever say that sleeping with you meant I would definitely save Shen Nanshan? What? I suddenly opened my eyes wide. I never imagined that after I had been so exhausted last night, my bones feeling crushed, he would say such things. Before I could recover from my extreme disappointment and sorrow, I heard his cold laughter. Moreover, with your body, you think that could please me? I wasn't particularly clever, but hearing this, I understood. He had never intended to save my father from the beginning. He was deliberately humiliating me, just as I had humiliated him for the past 2 years. I felt so hurt that my eyes seemed ready to pour rain, but I disliked crying and forced myself not to let the tears fall. I also suppressed the urge to pick up my little golden whip and used all my strength to bow my head and beg him. Your Royal Highness, I'm truly begging you. I don't want my father to die. Please save him. He didn't even spare me a glance, carrying a body full of frost as he left without looking back. I felt as if I had lost my soul. Like a walking corpse, I numbly picked up the scattered clothing to put on and walked outside in a daze. I didn't expect to see Lin Huaji walking toward me the moment I left his chambers. I had seen Lin Huaji from a distance on the street before, and knew she was the Duke of England's beloved daughter, and Jo Yuchen's future crown princess. Lin Huaji was truly beautiful. My father was, after all, the wealthiest man in Riverton City, so her clothing might not have been more expensive than mine, but her noble scholarly air still made me feel ashamed of myself. The way she looked at me also carried contempt and disdain, as if I were something filthy. You're the merchant's daughter that Crown Prince brother favored while in Riverton. She spoke as if Jo Yuchen and I had been lovers without proper marriage. I didn't like her arrogant manner and corrected her. He didn't favor me. He and I had a marriage certificate. He was my husband. Even if Jo Yuchen now wanted to divorce me, it couldn't change the fact that he had once been my husband. Husband? Lin Huaji laughed mockingly, as if my words were ridiculous. I've inquired about this. When Crown Prince brother was in Riverton City, you treated him very poorly. When he married you, did you ever respect him? Did you ever truly love him? You simply want to climb the social ladder now that Crown Prince brother has noble status, so you're eager to please him. How could Crown Prince brother possibly care for a vain, heartless woman like you? However, if you really want to attach yourself to Crown Prince brother, after he marries me, I can have him keep you in the residence as a concubine. How infuriating. Who would want to be Jo Yuchen's concubine? I only wanted one person for one lifetime. If Jo Yuchen was going to marry another woman, even though I had some feelings for him, I would never entangle myself with him again, if it weren't for the fact that my father's life was now in the hands of these officials. I would definitely fight with Lin Huaji. But after father was imprisoned, mother and I had begged so many people that most of my temper had been worn away. Through repeated rejections, I had learned that no matter how wealthy my family was, it couldn't compare to political power. I had really been spoiled by my parents before, making me so ignorant and lawless. I won't be a concubine. I didn't argue with Lin Huaji. After saying this, I dragged my still aching body forward. Jo Golden Prince really wasn't human. Last night he was like a man-eater. My only consolation was that I hadn't bled, so I probably hadn't disturbed the pregnancy. After leaving the Crown Prince's residence, looking at the bright sun overhead, I couldn't help but cry despite my resolve. Jo Yuchen hated me. He only wanted to see my family's downfall. He would never save my father. What could I possibly do to clear the injustice my father faced? I was truly terrified that my father would really lose his head. Miss Shen, just as I was crying without any dignity, I suddenly heard a somewhat familiar voice. I hurriedly wiped away my tears and turned to see that the person calling me was indeed Scholar Lulu Xingye. I wasn't good at studying, so I had always particularly admired scholars. My father also liked scholars, so 2 years ago, he had gathered all the scholars he had sponsored in the city to compete for my silk ball. I had most hoped that the refined Lu Xingye would catch the ball. Honestly, when Lu Xingye didn't catch the ball, I had felt quite disappointed at the time. Later, when I began to care for Zhou Yuchen, I felt this had all been heaven's best arrangement. Unfortunately, Zhou Yuchen had never cared for me. He despised me. I heard that Lu Xingye had also been selected as a son-in-law. He married the legitimate eldest daughter of the Minister of Justice. 2 years ago, he placed third in the palace examinations. He was already talented, and with his father-in-law's support, his career path went very smoothly. In just 2 years he had become a fifth-rank Justice Ministry secretary. My father's case was handled by the Justice Ministry. I knew he could certainly influence it, so I hurried to him and begged, "Scholar Lu, Lord Lu, my father has been slandered. Can you save him?" My father had truly helped Lu Xingye and other poor scholars many times. I didn't like demanding favors for past kindnesses, but now I really had no other options, so I still hoped Lu Xingye might help my father for the sake of the assistance father had given him. After not seeing you for 2 years, Miss Shen has grown even more captivating. Lu Xingye didn't answer my question but stared at me intently. His gaze made me very uncomfortable, and I instinctively stepped back several paces. He smiled even more gently, like a warm spring breeze in March. Lu has always admired Miss Shen, and hopes Miss Shen would remain by my side. Shameless. I suddenly understood that Lu Xingye wasn't as honorable as he appeared on the surface. Just like how Zhou Yuchen seemed celibate but was completely inhuman in bed. Men couldn't be judged by their appearances. My father and mother had a good relationship. Whether father was penniless or wealthy beyond measure, he had never considered taking a concubine. I had grown up bathed in my parents' love and naturally believed that husband and wife should be faithful to each other. I never expected that Lu Xingye, already married to a high official's daughter, would still want me. I forced myself to put my hand holding the little golden whip behind my back and said patiently, "Lord Lu is already married. Isn't it common for men to have multiple wives and concubines?" Lu Xingye showed no shame on his face, but his eyes held malice and greed. "I can set up a residence for you to live in first. I'll visit you often, and when the time is right, I'll bring you into my household as a favored concubine." He meant for me to be his mistress. I was so angry my teeth itched. But wanting my father to live, I had to suppress my temper and continue this nonsense conversation with him. "I won't be anyone's mistress. Lord Lu, you scholars always say that one should repay even the smallest favor with great gratitude. My father gave you much money. Now that he has been framed, I hope you can help him. What I lack least now is money." Lu Xingye said this while trying to grab my hand. "What I lack now is a beautiful companion like Miss Shen. I know Miss Shen was with His Royal Highness for 2 years, but His Highness is about to marry, and he can't possibly want you anymore. Miss Shen, if you want Shen Nanshan to live, you can only come with me." The more I looked at Lu Xingye's outwardly refined but inwardly corrupt appearance, the more disgusted I felt, and I couldn't help but retch. Lu Xingye clearly hadn't expected me to be nauseated by him to the point of vomiting. His face turned livid. "Don't be ungrateful." He ground his teeth and continued threatening me. "You should know what position I hold now. If I want Shen Nanshan dead, he won't even last until the execution next month. Shen Tangtang, I'm giving you 2 days. If I can't see you at my villa in the southern part of the city after 2 days, you can prepare a coffin for Shen Nanshan in advance." After his humiliation turned to rage, he completely lost patience, glared at me hatefully, and left without looking back. My heart felt like it had fallen into an ice cave. They say scholars understand propriety and shame. In reality, most heartless betrayers are scholars. My family was wealthy. Even after spending lavishly to save my father, Mother and I had enough money to last several lifetimes. Mother had already bought a residence in the capital. After separating from Lu Xingye, I went directly to our new home. I had a brother 2 years younger than me. Like my parents and me, I got headaches just looking at books. Only my brother could recognize characters at 2 and compose poetry at 5, truly a heaven-chosen scholar. When he heard the news of father's troubles, my brother Shenmo also rushed from his academy to the capital. When I returned, I happened to see Shenmo entering, dusty from travel. Tang Tang, how did it go? Did His Royal Highness agree to save father? After mother asked me. Shenmo also asked urgently. Brother-in-law won't let father come to harm, right? I couldn't bear to disappoint mother and my brother, but this concerned father's life, so I didn't dare lie and could only tell the truth. He is unwilling to save father. It is all my fault. I treated him badly during those 2 years and he hates me. I'm the one who implicated father. Tang Tang, don't talk nonsense. You're mine and your father's treasure. How could you have implicated your father? Mother couldn't bear to see me sad and immediately comforted me. I hope your father will be fine, but if he really, mother's eyes reddened. That is also his fate. You can't blame yourself just because you couldn't save him. Exactly. Sister, you're so good, how could you be wrong? My brother also tried his best to comfort me. Brother-in-law doesn't appreciate you because he has no vision. My sister is so smart and beautiful. She deserves the best man in the world. My heart felt warm. See, my father, mother and even my brother all spoiled me. It would be strange if I wasn't arrogant and domineering, but the once unrestrained and proud Miss Shen, after understanding many of this world's helplessnesses, no longer dared to be arrogant. I only wanted our whole family to be safe. Sister, mother told me you're pregnant. You should go rest quickly. I'm 16 now, I can support this family. I'll think of a way to handle father's situation. You and mother don't need to worry. I'll definitely save father. Looking at the jade-like young man before me, my heart was full of comfort. The little boy who used to follow me around crying had really grown up. My stomach was vaguely aching, and afraid that not resting properly might affect little dog in my belly. I was persuaded by my brother and mother to return to my room first. I was truly worried about my father and couldn't sleep. After lying in bed for half a day, I still planned to spend some money to visit father in prison again. I had just walked out of my small courtyard when I saw my brother's current outfit, colorful and gaudy like a flashy peacock. If any other man wore such an outfit, it would definitely be a disaster, ugly enough to kill. But my brother's face was too handsome. Even in all those colors, he still had a kind of rakish charm like a young man on horseback, leaning against a slanted bridge while red sleeves wave from every building. Sister, seeing me, my brother was slightly embarrassed, but he still wore this outfit and turned in a circle in front of me. How do you think I look in this? I heard Princess Anyang likes beautiful men. I plan to go to her residence. If she keeps me as a male consort, father will be saved. I was speechless. My brother was the best student in his academy. His teacher said my brother would definitely become the youngest top scholar in the Great Zhou dynasty with unlimited prospects. My brother was a scholar who might become the top scholar. How could he become someone's male consort? I panicked and tricked my brother into the kitchen, then locked him inside. Sister, open the door quickly. I need to find Princess Anyang. Even if Princess Anyang won't keep me, I can find someone else. I really like being a male consort. What is wrong with men living off women? My brother desperately pounded on the door. I'm so smart and good-looking. If I stay with Princess Anyang, I'll start as a male consort. But over time, I'll definitely advance. Sister, I'm really suited to be a male consort. Let me out quickly. I hadn't expected my brother to be so enthusiastic about being a male consort, but I still didn't want him to become anyone's male consort. In the Great Zhou, male consorts had the lowest status and were registered as lowly citizens. If he really became a male consort, he wouldn't be able to take the imperial examinations next year. I sat outside the kitchen with my chin in my hands, lost in thought. If I went to beg Zhou Yuchen again, it would only bring more humiliation. He despised me so much that my appearance might even affect his mood, and cause my father to lose his head early. Lu Xingye was a beast in human clothing who only wanted to toy with me. I didn't want to be his mistress. But I couldn't really let my brother become a male consort. Could I? When night fell, I found out the location of Lu Xingye's southern villa, secretly sent him a message, and went to his southern villa carrying a golden lantern. Honestly, I had initially quite disliked Zhou Yuchen, but after marrying him, I had never thought about being with another man. My feelings for Lu Xingye weren't romantic love either, just admiration for a scholar. I didn't want to do intimate things with Lu Xingye. But Zhou Yuchen no longer wanted me. My father's life hung by a thread. My brother was determined to become a male consort. Being Lu Xingye's mistress was the only way I could think of to protect our Shen family. At worst, I'd treat tonight like being bitten by a dog. I kept comforting myself along the way tonight. Just endure and it would pass. But when I actually reached the villa and saw the human-faced beast Lu Xingye, my heart still couldn't help but panic and feel disgusted. Miss Shen, I've been waiting for this day for so long. Lu Xingye's hand moved to his sash, thinking of something. He suddenly curved his lips. From now on, you're my woman. You should serve me by undressing me. Serve your sister. I sat coldly on the bedside, wanting to curse his 18 generations of ancestors. I definitely wouldn't help him undress, seeing that I wasn't obedient at all. He wasn't angry but smiled even more gently and seductively. Miss Shen is used to being served by others and naturally doesn't know how to serve others. No matter, later I'll serve Miss Shen. I found Lu Xingye increasingly disgusting. But since I was asking for his help, no matter how upset I felt, I could only endure it. Lu Xingye removed his outer robe. Miss Shen is beautiful as a flower and wins my heart completely. Tonight will be our wedding night. I wanted to curse him again, especially seeing him untie his sash and walk toward me step by step. Despite the cold weather, my palms couldn't help but sweat. I discovered that I had comforted myself in vain on the way here. I couldn't stand Lu Xingye approaching me, much less being intimate with him. Miss Shen. Lu Xingye's eyes burned with flame, his hands trembling with excitement. Suddenly, he stepped forward and gripped my waist tightly. So fragrant, he leaned down as if to bury his face in my neck. Afraid he would really do that to me, I shivered and hurriedly backed away, trying to keep some distance from him. Lu Xingye, I don't want to be your mistress. I can give you gold, silver, and jewels. I'm really begging you, please save my father. Okay, I told you, I don't lack money. I only want Miss Shen. Lu Xingye's eyes quickly showed darkness, his voice chillingly sinister as he suddenly changed how he addressed me. Tang Tang, you can continue making me angry, and tomorrow you can collect Shen Nanshan's corpse. My heart lurched violently. I didn't want to collect my father's corpse. But as Lu Xingye's hands tore at my clothing, I felt so disgusted, I could barely stand it. In bed, Zhou Yuchen would make me very tired. But I liked it when Zhou Yuchen touched me, while Lu Xingye grabbing my clothes made me feel like a disgusting poisonous snake had coiled around me. I desperately wanted to get away from this snake. But if I acted willfully, my father would be tortured to death. Lu Xingye was so twisted. How could he possibly be me?